Well, welcome to What's Broken. I got 6 sheets of 2 feet by 8 feet by 2 inch thick of this rigid pink insulation. I think it's polyethylene. And looking on the net, there's a lot of varying opinions on what glue works the best. I'm going to try this polyurethane wood glue, and then I've got some Tight Bond 2, and I'm also going to just try good old 100% silicone just to see what will give the best bond to stick the sheets together for this sit-down fishing board that I'm going to attempt building. I did try some of this Gorilla spray adhesive, the heavy duty multi-purpose, and even though it says it'll work on foam, it won't work on this polyethylene because you can kind of see here it ate some of it. So without further ado, we'll start with the Tight Bond. Just going to do a little glue test and see sort of what works the best. Maybe put some of the rumors to bed on some of the opinions out there. Or not. I just don't want it coming apart when I'm out in the middle of the water. Next we'll go with the silicone. This is just DAP Quick Seal 100%. The most expensive is that polyurethane glue. It's like $20 for 6 ounces or whatever. Probably got to cut the tip off this. Yep. I don't know if I got to break a seal or not. I'll just wrap it with tape to let it set for 24 hours. Under a wee little bit of tension. Okay, it's starting to get a little chilly out. It is mid-October, so I think I'll take this home, let it set overnight in my in the warmth of my apartment, and then I'll bring you back and we'll see which one sort of did the best. So it's been a few days, 2 or 3. Just gonna test the glue tests. So the first one was a tight bond, then that was just 100% silicone, and this is that LePage polyurethane wood glue. Let me grab something to sort of bend this over. Maybe a hammer handle will work. Well, that took a bit of force, but yeah, some of it didn't. The styrofoam breaks before the glue does, and if it's perforated it'll seal even better. Now for the silicone. Oh, that one hurt. So that held pretty solid, but it did separate on the glue line. Oh. And the one that's the LePage's polyurethane, that one appears to be the winner so far. Yeah, the styrofoam gave way before the glue did. And the fourth test I did was using a piece of cotton in between the styrofoam blocks. Glue's still tacky. That was probably 2 days of over 48 hours of setting and curing. So that's not the plan. Looks like I might have to look for maybe a cheaper version of polyurethane wood glue, or I might look into that 3M spray adhesive 78. I got to see what the coverage is. Just getting ready to start doing some assembly. I want to end up with 2 sheets that are 4 feet wide and 12 feet long, but with offset joints. So I've cut this one, so I'm going to set these two side by side and put a 4 foot, or sorry, yeah, 4 by 2 on each end. And then the 3 that are left are going to have a little bit of a different configuration. Just going to set up the table. Maybe I'll film from the other end so the sun doesn't wash us out. I get these set together, and you know, this end lines up. So I'm hoping that this tuck tape sort of sticks well enough. The idea for the tuck tape is to create a bit of a hinge. So I'm going to fold it over now and prep it for gluing, and then should be able to just fold the halves back and somewhat hold it in place. I removed the batteries. Just carefully flip it back over. Might end up, I think this might work better if I set this on the ground. Yeah, hard to say. Anyway, it says missed 1/2. Get rid of any standing water. And yeah, I think I will do this in the upright position. It says not to overuse the glue, but not really sure what that means, so do a little test piece here. Apparently this glue will expand a little as well as it cures. Okay. Get it back up on the bench. Be sure I'll maybe pull some of these across. Well, so far it looks like, oh yeah, you can see it expanding and coming out of the joint a little bit. Good, good. So far it looks like it's doing what it should. Now I'll figure out how to put the end piece on. So for the end I'm doing it a little different sequence than before. Just because I think it'll be easier. Now I'll mist the surface. Managed to flip it over. Foam's already starting to expand a little. And I'm changing tactics yet again for this end. I got the other end weighted down with the batteries to keep everything in plane. So, slide this halfway under. I just spaced it with a couple of paint sticks, just some stir sticks. And I'm going to mist this edge and put the glue on that one and then fit it together and clamp it. Just going to use a level to straddle both sides. Whoops. And I think I'll maybe get a bucket of water. Yeah, I'm going to go grab a bucket of water and set it on the middle just to help hold it down. So it's clamped. I got the weight in the middle. Got two batteries on this end, holding everything down nice and smooth. I might give them a quarter turn so they're lengthways. Everything feels nice and in plane, nice and flat. And I'm going to carve this, it's 48 inches wide. I'll probably carve it to 42 inches, 40 inches, somewhere in there, you know, and shape the front and the back. Put a bit of a, it's 12 feet long, and I think I'll make it about 11.6 or 11.8, you know, and put a 20-degree bevel on the front. I'll play with all that later. So I'm going to let this set for an hour or two, and then I'll move it off the bench onto the floor and get started on the other three pieces. So on the first layer, I added 2 feet by 4 on the ends with the seam down the middle. And on the opposing layer, this is going to be a 12 foot by 2, so none of the seams overlap. And then I'll cut that 8 foot right down the middle, and that 4 foot way at the end down the middle. And I'm going to offset on each side here, so there won't be any seams anywhere that lines up with any other seam. Kind of pulling the tuck tape to stretch it so that it'll pull the joints in nice and tight. Going to put a little spacer under this end, just 3/4 inch, just to sort of push this together when I tape it. You can already see the glue working, starting to expand and come out. And all this tuck tape is going to be removed once the glue cures, when I go to put the rest of it together. Okay, I'm going to let that set for a bit. I won't bore you with the noise. I think rather than using a razor knife on these long cuts, I'm going to get out a jigsaw. I'll go outside so the mess doesn't end up in here, and just rip the 8-foot and the 4-foot in half. Be right back. Well, looks like I lost some footage of putting the final corner pieces in, or side pieces. Anyhow, I did get it done, and then we just laid one on top of the other, let it cure overnight. You know, got buckets of water, a couple of bins of water, a couple of deep cycle batteries, and a couple of more buckets on a piece of plywood, so just to hold everything so it's nice and flat. So I cobbled together a chunk of plywood on the end of my workbench, which is only 7 feet long, to sort of accommodate. Just going to remove all the tuck tape and start plotting out how big I'm going to make this thing or how I'm going to cut it. Well, all the tuck tape's off this side, and that polyethylene or polyurethane glue did a really good job of joining these panels and pieces. I took a few minutes and sort of sketched out where I think I'll make my cut lines. I'm going to have it 2 feet wide in the front, and then it'll be beveled. Keeping in mind this will be 4 inches thick. I brought it off at a bit of an angle. Then I'm going to make it 40 inches across. I looked up, how wide the average canoe, kayak, paddleboard is for Canada or North America, and canoes, which is sort of stability wise what this might somewhat emulate. A solo canoe is 28 to 33 inches, but I'm making this 40 inches wide. I want it good and stable. Then I tapered it at the back. I think I brought it in 6 inches over 3 feet, making it 11 foot 6, so I'll cut 6 inches off the bottom. And I just kind of placed, the fin will be around there, the battery. I'm going to put a couple of tie downs for either a crate or, just a day pack. The seat, I think I'm going to set right in the center. I got a block under the front because I may angle it back a little bit just so I'm kind of reclined when I'm out fishing. And the motor's going to be placed at the front. You got to take the head apart and flip it over, so the motor's pushing water backwards. But yeah, so far I think I'll go with this cutout design. And then the 2 pieces of wood I picked up the other day, they're 2.5 by 3/4 inch aspen. So what it'll do is add sort of some flexible rigidity to the whole thing. According to the calculations I did, based on either a 55 or a 60 pound buoyancy factor per cubic foot of foam, this thing should support somewhere between 630 and 690 pounds, so I should be all right. And there's the the crude finished shape of the first layer. Got a little bit of styrofoam to dispose of. I'll get the other sheet up on the bench, lay this on top, mark it out and cut it. Removed all the tuck tape from the second layer, and I've marked out where I want to cut. So I won't bore you with watching me cut this one. We saw the other one. I'll bring you back once this is done. So there's a second layer cut. Well, it looks like the cuts are pretty close. Everything lines up nice. I did hang on to one chunk of foam. Not sure if I'm going to put another 2-inch height on the front for waves or water splashing over. I don't think it really matters. This really is going to be a sort of fair weather, get out in the mountain lake and go do some trout fishing kind of thing. Just something I can toss on top of the van, go camp for a couple days, and it's easy to pop into the water, in and out. But yeah, all the cuts came out, so everything lines up. And once it's glued, then I'll sand down. I want to round the top corners. I think I'm probably going to do a 45 bevel all around on the bottom corners, except right at the front. I may go for, a little more of a rake, just to give it something to, maybe go from 2 inches back to 4 or 5 inches. Just something that'll ride on top of the water. And to put the two halves together, there's a fella down in the US that builds, surfboards out of white foam. Or maybe it's out of this stuff, I'm not sure. But he had been using the 77 3M, but he did say you had to put it on with really light coats because it can eat the foam. Whereas apparently this 3M 78 spray, which is a little hard to get. I had to order it out of Edmonton from Uline. Nobody in Calgary handled it that I could find. But its main purpose is polystyrene foam insulation. So it does not degrade polystyrene, heat and moisture resistant. It's got an adjustable width web pattern, and it bonds polystyrene, foam, concrete, wood, metal, plastic, and more. So, hoping that's the ticket for sandwiching these two pieces together. So I took a minute and did a little calculating and figuring, and I cut the wood down to 2 inches from this end, 2 inches from that end. I've already traced out the rest of it. Just getting the cut ends. So now I'll take the router, and I'm going to router in, I think that's 3/4 inch, but I'll check. Yeah, and just cut these channels out so the wood will set right in. Glue it in there with PL 300. I made these 24 inches wide to center. The reason for that is I'll glue them into this one with PL Premium or PL 300, and then I'll put a layer of 300 on top. And I want it to line up with the seams that are at 2 feet. because this one has the 2 foot down the middle. My thinking is it'll just hold everything together that much better. And to flip this head around, I think I did this once before. It's as simple as come on. Just a bolt with a nut. Yeah, that's it. Just flipping it over. And then trying to get it lined up. These are composite shafts, where in the past I think they were maybe powder coated aluminum or just mild steel. Now there, I can see it coming through now. Okay, I hooked it up to the old 12 volt. Good. Forward and reverse works in all the speeds. So for my next trick, I'm going to try to router out the channel where this wood sits. I took a chunk of scrap aspen and I made the router cut or depth just a little proud of the thickness of this to allow for the PL300. Just going to put on the old respirator as well, be on the safe side. Imagine this is going to get pretty dusty. I'm going to shut the camera off because this is making a mess and I think it might clog up the camera a bit. So I'll bring you back when I got both sides done and everything all vacuumed out. If you have a router with a vacuum attachment, I would highly recommend it. Otherwise, you know, goggles, respirator, ear muffs, ear protection, etc. I think that turned out really well. The foam's just a little bit proud of the wood, so once I put the PL300 on the bottom side of the wood, it should drop right into place. I'll weight it down, leave it for 20 minutes. That's how long it takes to set. And should be good. The other thing I did off camera was I originally had this wood coming to with, I think it was 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. I cut a chunk off because I do want to put probably a 5-inch rake or bevel on this bottom, you know, to sort of ride on top or cut the water or whatever. And I didn't, in order to cut that bevel, I would have probably gone into some of the wood if it was up here. So yeah, I just cut it back. Other than that, I like the way it fits. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other side all prepped and routed out. I won't show you any of that because, you know, this foam kind of gets everywhere and it's pretty sticky, especially for the camera. But I will bring you back when I put the PL300 on this and glue it into place. I got everything somewhat cleaned up and the second piece of support in place, not glued yet. And again, the foam sits just a little proud of this, so I'll be able to put PL300 on the bottom and on the top, as well as the 3M Spray 78 when I go to sandwich all of this together. So good old Canadian Tire, they only had 2 cartridges or tubes of this PL300. They had 3 more, but it was the old cardboard style. And this stuff says new formula, so I thought I don't want to use old stock. And I'm hoping 2 tubes is enough to sort of coat this board for the one channel at least. My plan is to put a bead down and then use one of these serrated or notched trowels and sort of spread it out. Apparently it has a sort of a 20-minute set time and then I think it's a 24-hour cure time. We'll get some weights on this. Just using a bunch of paint sticks as a small spacer so that the weight is sitting on the board and not on the foam. So it's been sitting for about an hour with weight on it. This stuff says it's got a sort of a set time of 20 minutes and then cures over 7 days. So it's still a little gooey, but I got lots of heavy weighted things sitting on it. So I think I'll leave it overnight like this. And then I'll do the other side. I mean, it's not really made for filling holes, and that's what happened there. I got a little bit jiggy with the router. But I'll let it sit overnight. Maybe it stays pliable, I'm not sure. Or a bit pliable. Let it sit overnight and then I'll glue this side in. So I'm back at the garage. It's been about probably 18 or 19 hours since I put this on. I took the weights off that I had it holding everything in place, and it feels like, you know, it's pretty much set up to a certain point. It takes up to 7 days to cure, but it's not really goopy or liquid anymore. So it'll take a few minutes. I'm going to glue that one in and then get started on the next phase. Well, the other side's glued in and weighted down. There's a difference. I had picked up a tube of the new formula, which is sort of blue. I think it's latex or acrylic based or something. And then I had a tube of the old version of the same stuff, which is brown, and apparently the blue stuff has less VOCs, or what is that, volatile organic compounds. This stuff, you can smell it a bit, but it I think initially it's a lot stickier. So anyhow, hopefully they both perform the same. I'll let this set for an hour or so and then get on with the rest of it. So I'm just prepping this stuff to spray with 3M78 and then pancake them together. Just got some 40 grit rough stuff, and all I want to do is, I don't know if it's necessary, but I do want to rough up and just have some, you know, little grooves and striations in both surfaces to help sort of the glue to go into the surface, maybe help with the bonding. So just getting ready to spray the 3M78. I'm wearing a respirator, safety goggles, and some gloves. This stuff is, you know, you read the MSDS sheets and it's pretty toxic. So I've got the big door open, the man door open. There's just a slight breeze. It's probably about plus 24 C, so should be a good day. Probably going to try and use up both cans. Hopefully it's enough, and get it good and covered. Let it tack up a bit, and then I'll fold the halves together. Got them sitting on a tarp just in case there's any overspray. So I'll get masked up and whatnot and turn the camera back on and we'll glue these. Okay, so I got the gluing done. I'll probably look for a few more things to pile on there just to keep weight on it. Probably let it set for a good 24 hours. So we'll see you in a minute. So now that these are glued together and I've got the lengthwise supports sandwiched, I want to put 1/4 inch plywood on the, I think it'll be on the top side, yeah. That will go across in about 5 places and just sort of provide some support widthwise, and they'll tie through these 2 stringers or supports. Got a bit of a rough idea. One across the back for the fin, something for the battery box, sort of an H1 where the seat will bolt in the middle, or the seat mount, then one for the motor mount, and one up at the front. So I'm going to take a couple minutes, get some measurements. And I got a piece of good one-side plywood I picked up out of Kijiji for 20 bucks. I used up some of it for something else already, but I'm going to carve this up for the cross pieces. So I got 4 out of the 5 pieces cut, sanded them up, sort of put them all in place. The fin at the back is going to go on the bottom, but I just wanted to place it to get an idea. So I have the battery box, plenty of room in here for either a milk crate or, you know, just a day bag, spare water, some extra lures, a lunch, whatnot. And I've got the center piece that'll support the seat. This is one of those swivel quick disconnects. I haven't cut the piece yet for the motor mount and the well, because I have to get some measurements for exactly where I want it. Then just a little cross support at the front. You know, probably tie a rope on here so I can tie it off at shore or whatever. When I did the other routering for the long supports, I kind of looked like the Pink Panther when I was done. There was pink dust everywhere, so I'm going to try something a little different. I got the shop vac hooked up. I ran clothesline cord across, little pulley set up so the hose will move a bit. And then I found an actual vacuum attachment. It used to be yay wide, that I've never used for my shop vac. So I've got the depth cut on the or the depth set for the router bit, so I won't set it up on end. You'll see it working. But yeah, I just took my little mini grinder and carved everything out to the right profile so it fits in pretty tight. Put 2 zip straps on it. Closed in this side where I cut it off with some tuck tape and a piece of cardboard. So I'm hoping it sucks up the majority of the pink dust. And I'll get you set up in a camera. I've marked everything out where these are going to be. And the reason I'm going with the wider or my bigger router, it's a 3/4 horse plunge router, little overkill for styrofoam, but the size of the base just gives me a little more stability when I'm working on this. So like I say, I'm going to freehand everything because the epoxy I'm going to use will fill in any divots. But yeah, here goes nothing. I'll try to carve out and see how this piece fits when I'm done. Well, the vacuum system seems to work pretty well. I'd say the height of the depth of cutting is bang on. So I'll just get rejigged and carry on. Well, I think you get the gist of it. It's going to take me a while. I can smooth out any anomalies with a little bit of sandpaper or a razor knife, but this works pretty good. It seems to pick up the the majority. There's a little bit of dust, but nothing compared to what was. So I don't think I'll video doing all of this because we sort of want to just get focused on getting this done. So I'll bring you back and show you when I have the four places routed out and how everything fits. And then I'm going to start doing some calculating on the motor mount and the well for the motor to drop through. All right. Well, I got 3 of the inlays done. Turned out really nice. Maybe even a little better than I expected. I'll set these in with epoxy. Let that cure, and then I'm still trying to decide on whether or not I'm going to wrap it in fiberglass cloth and use epoxy resin, or go with the poor man's fiberglass of cotton and Titebond 2. Yeah, I'll figure that out as I go. So I'll flip it over and put this fin support in underneath on the bottom side. And then I gotta do some figuring on building a motor mount and for the trolling motor, and carving a well out at the right distance where this will drop in. So I'm going to start building the trolling motor mount. I don't have a drill press, but I picked up one of these little Kreg, K-R-E-G, sort of drill bit guides, so it'll hopefully start you out and keep you relatively square and plumb. And it also, it'll fit over 1/2 inch plywood or 3/4. You know, if you want to drill on edge. It goes 1/8, 3/16, quarter, 5/16, 3/8, and 1/2 inch. So I'm going to use the 1/4 inch. I center punched where I'm going to put the holes. See how well this works. Might have got a little bit off on that one. But I'm putting 2 of these together for thickness. They're a composite trim. Buddy gave me a chunk of this stuff and I thought, well, I'll try it out for the motor mount. So I think that one's off a bit. So maybe I'll correct it with the next one. Drill's nice and easy. Okay, I lined everything up with the two brackets. And this one I'm just going to eyeball going through straight. There we have it. Not sure if I lost some footage. I just used a spade bit to punch 2 holes so I can take the reciprocating saw, and I'm going to carve probably a little bit inside the line, and then I can shape the inside after. Alright. See how well this... I'd have to change you guys a bit so I can sort of see a little better. Well, maybe we'll start that way. What you need? Yeah. Actually, if I turn the blade around, I might be able to work it a little better. Has that still got a picture on it? Okay. And there's the well for the trolling motor. So I just tied the motor in place, sort of mocked it up, see where it sits in the well, I might have to trim this edge, oh, 1/2, 3/4 of an inch. I got to play with that. Once I mount this, then I can play with whether or not this needs to be trimmed back to allow the motor to lift. But the seat's sort of in place, little storage crate, the battery. So it's beginning to take shape. Okay, so this video is probably getting pretty long. I'll wrap it up here for part 1 and then hopefully just a part 2. Just punched a hole through the back here. I think I'll finish up with gluing this in. I want to test out this epoxy I bought off Amazon. So there's going to be a 1/4 inch carriage bolt that goes through, and it'll be hidden under the fin. And then on the back side I'll be able to attach a little handle or a loop or something. I had picked up resin and hardener. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. It's actually made for tabletop or jewelry, or for, you know, finishing an epoxy table, or for making jewelry, but I'm going to give it a whirl for this because it's cheap. Originally I thought to try that poor man's fiberglass, which is Titebond 2 glue and basically old bed sheets, and you embed it onto the EPS. But I've decided against it, and this stuff doesn't have a UV protection in it. But I'm going to be painting it anyway, probably with Tremclad or something. Any of the things I mention in my videos, I'm not pushing on you. It's just what I happen to be using. So this stuff is, I think it was Demorex Clear Epoxy Resin Kit. So the price was right. And then I bought some fiberglass. I think it's 6-ounce fiberglass cloth as well that I'm going to wrap this in. But yeah, this is just the wrap-up video for this portion. I'm going to mix up a bit and just see how well it works. So for mixing, I got two caps that are the same amount. I think what I'll do is mix up one little batch and pour it in here and see if I have to mix up another. I've never played with epoxy. I think sort of once I did. So this is my my first try at it. So it looks like these caps can get removed, or sorry, reused. So I'll try to remember that this one's for A and this one's for B. So there's a cap full of the Part A resin. I generally use popsicle sticks or chopsticks for mixing when I'm playing with JB Weld or whatever. Now I'll put in the hardener. I might go to the dollar store and see if I can find some small 1-ounce measuring cups or something. Would probably help greatly with this. Yeah, I'm already seeing that. I think I'll maybe mix up 2 caps of each. Well, let's see how this covers. I think I might have had a little too much volume, but you'll see once the wood is pushed in what it does. Apparently on the CPS you don't want to use polyester resin or whatever, because it'll kind of melt it. And marine epoxy was a wee bit cost prohibitive for this project. Yeah, so a little bit bubbled up around, but that's okay. Just use it to fill in any gaps. It's probably just about the right amount. So I'm using some masking tape just so that I don't glue any of these fasteners or clamps to the project. When I squeeze down on the clamps, I got a little more epoxy bubbling up. The reason I use the masking tape is it'll be easy to sand off, because it will probably stick to the epoxy. Nice heavy weight on that. I just slid it back more onto the workbench surface. So I don't know if I've said yet, this is going to be called you've heard of stand-up paddle boards. I'm calling this a sit-down fishing board. Got the idea last year when I was up on Spray Lakes on a little FishCat pontoon boat, looking around at the stand-up paddle boarders. The idea kind of formed in my mind, so I sort of took the winter to find a number of the materials, most of it off Kijiji to save some money. And this will be the final result, or the outcome. See how it works. Anyhow, that should wrap it up for the first part of this video. Hope you enjoyed this. Maybe you might build something and make your own video. I'd look forward to that. And we'll maybe see you on the next one. Bye for now.